Sunday dinners at my mother's house followed a script that no one ever acknowledged, but everyone understood. You arrived around 5. Someone set the table while my mother moved between the stove and the sink with quiet authority. My brother talked about work. My aunt usually brought dessert. Conversation stayed light until the meal was halfway finished. Then the evaluations began, not openly, nothing so direct. Just small questions that carried weight. How's the city treating you these days? Still doing freelance work? Rent must be exhausting over there. That evening I arrived a few minutes late. Traffic leaving the city had been slow, and by the time I pulled into the driveway most of the cars were already there. Inside, the house looked exactly the way it always had. Same furniture, same smell of roasted chicken and lemon cleaner. Same sense that time moved differently here than it did anywhere else. My mother hugged me quickly but distractedly, already turning back toward the kitchen. Dinner started without much ceremony. For a while the conversation stayed easy. My brother talked about a promotion he was hoping for. My aunt described a neighbor's renovation project that had gone wrong. I mostly listened. About halfway through the meal, my mother placed something beside my plate. At first I assumed it was a grocery list or a reminder about something she needed help with. It was written in her familiar handwriting on a sheet of yellow paper. Cleaning schedule. Laundry days, trash pickup. I read the first few lines without understanding. Then she said it, almost casually. Since you're struggling in the city, you'll just move back into the basement for a while. She said it the same way someone might mention rearranging furniture. Across the table, my brother nodded slightly. It'll be easier for you, he added. No rent. I looked back down at the paper. The list continued neatly down the page. Vacuuming, bathroom cleaning, yard work rotation. It was a schedule, not a suggestion. The room waited for me to react. For most of my life, I probably would have responded the way they expected. I would have laughed awkwardly, said something vague about thinking it over, maybe even apologized for not visiting more often. Instead I felt something quieter settling in. Not anger. Just clarity. For years I had been the person who helped when the house needed repairs. When the roof leaked one winter, I paid the contractor before anyone else could figure out what to do. During a difficult year, when my mother fell behind on the mortgage, I covered several payments quietly. At the time no one talked much about paperwork. They were just grateful the problem disappeared. I folded the cleaning list once and set it beside my plate. My mother watched me carefully. You'll have the back room downstairs, she continued. It's still empty. The basement. When I was younger it had been storage space, boxes of holiday decorations, old furniture, things that didn't quite belong anywhere else. Now it was apparently my future. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin envelope. The table went quiet as I slid a document onto the wood surface. For a moment no one moved. My brother leaned forward slightly. What's that? He asked. The deed, I said. My mother frowned. To what? To the house. The words didn't land immediately. It took a few seconds before my aunt reached over and adjusted the paper, so the heading was visible. Legal ownership transfer documents tend to look unimpressive. Just pages of text, stamped seals, signatures from years earlier. My mother stared at the page longer than anyone else. That's not, she began, then stopped. I spoke carefully. When the mortgage fell behind a few years ago, the bank required a restructuring agreement. No one interrupted. The arrangement transferred partial ownership. My brother looked between us. You're saying you own part of the house? Yes. Silence moved through the room in a way I hadn't experienced there before. My mother sat back slowly in her chair. But this is still my home, she said. It is, I agreed. Then I paused. But it's also a property. I reached for the envelope again and removed a second document. This one was newer. What's that? My aunt asked quietly. The listing agreement, I said. My brother blinked. For what? For selling the house. The room changed in a way that's difficult to describe. Not explosive, not dramatic, just the slow recognition that the conversation everyone thought they were having had shifted somewhere else entirely. My mother's voice came out smaller than before. "You're selling it." "I'm preparing to." She looked at the cleaning list still sitting beside my plate. "But where are we supposed to go?" The question hung there. For a long moment I didn't answer. Then I said the only thing that felt honest, "We'll all have to figure that out." Dinner ended quietly after that. No one raised their voice. No one demanded explanations. The food sat half finished on the table while people gathered their coats. When I stepped outside, the evening air felt colder than when I had arrived. The house stood behind me exactly as it always had, white siding, porch light glowing over the driveway. But something about it had changed, or maybe it was just my place in it. For the first time, I realized that kindness can slowly turn into permission if you never question how people interpret it. And once that permission disappears, people have to decide what the relationship actually was.